Three, two, one, and go.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Stephanie Bermudez with Startup Unidos, and I am here today with.
My name is Stephen Peterson. I am an economic development program for an organization called SEAGO, which is otherwise known as Southeastern Arizona Governments Organization.
And today, Stephen and I had a great day. We got to explore Santa Cruz County.
Yeah. You know, I've been here many times before, but this was a completely unique and new experience, being able to sort of have a guided tour by you to really show, you know, the good, bad, and ugly of Nogales, Rio Rico, and a lot of different parts of the county. So I'm super excited to be able to share what that experience was like and some of these takeaways.
Well, please do. I'm excited to hear how it was different from any of the experiences that you had before.
Absolutely. You know, the first thing that really comes to my mind is the fact that you were guiding me through the experience. It definitely would have been, you know, maybe a 1 out of 10 if I had been left to my own devices. You know, I tend to be directionally or challenged, so I get lost pretty easily. But you were there to really show the highlights, and that's not just places. That was about people. And so I'm really excited to kind of be able to go back and share this sort of new, enriched experience that I had being here, because you were so passionate and able to help me really understand the full scope of everything that's going on in Nogales. You know, where the perception might be that you know, this is a dead area, right? And I mean, you know what that sort of narrative looks like. You know, what are some of the things that people typically say to you that's in opposition to, you know, what I'm saying right now?
I think that's one of the things that is more painful about how unique, you know, Santa Cruz County is to our state. But too often times it's tainted by a lack of storytelling, right? There's so much more to Santa Cruz County than what we can Google. So changing the narrative and being able to host you today is my true pleasure, Stephen, honestly. I'm really prideful of our county and a true cheerleader when it comes to innovation. You know, when we started having conversations long ago, we were, a few years ago, you know, during COVID, we were excited about this very day, you know, to come together and be able to do this type of exploration. But even then, just this short time ago, some of the innovation and some of that pride and some of those areas in which I'm really passionate about, where there is change and where we are moving the needle, it wasn't true when we originally started collaborating, you know, and just in a matter of 2 or 3 years, we're able to take this tour and continue to be inspired by the change that's, you know, that's possible, by the stuff that's already happening and the things that are still yet to come.
Yeah, I mean, you know, what was very obvious to me is the energy, and I almost want to call it the hustle. I mean, everyone here is excited about trading and having people and customers and you know, people actually visiting and interested. I mean, we're here at you know, Delo's studios. What's the name of this? Underground Studio, and just the welcoming that Delo, you know, he was here with open arms, ready to receive us and educate us on what we needed to know, you know, to really sort of put together a great podcast for you. And that was the entire day, was just people very welcoming, open arms, excited that you're there, doing business. That to me was really the heart of the experience, is that there is an amazing grind culture, hustler culture of folks who see that there's a lot of potential here, and they want to be a part of the growth that I think, you know, it's in the air. We kind of anticipate that, you know, as you mentioned, maybe a couple, 2-3 years ago, a lot of these ideas or pathways forward would have seemed absurd. And here we are today, really thinking more about, yeah, how are we going to get this done? It seems a lot more possible. It was a great experience to kind of see the passion that everyone has here, and the pride they have living here. You know, you didn't get the sense that people like were forced here or they'd rather be somewhere else. You got the sense that they were showing, hey, this is what makes us great. Yeah, it was incredible.
Yeah, and there's more than just the border, right? Which I think is when people think about Santa Cruz County, Nogales is certainly, where it's at when it comes to the memories of what Santa Cruz County might be. But there's so much more to explore. In fact, we left the good part to the end, right? We didn't visit Nogales first. We went to Tubac. And then we took the back roads. We ended up in Patagonia Highway. We visited Kino Springs. We then went to Nogales, visited all the economic development and historical sites there. Then went to Ambos Nogales, right, to Nogales, Sonora, and had some really good food at La Roca, of course. Visited Israel Gutierrez, a really great artist at the Centro right there in the Curios off of Obregón. And along the way, as you said, meeting such resilience, in a community that unfortunately too oftentimes has been tainted with the different narrative, right? One of sufferment. But the perspective in which we carried ourselves through today was one where we were looking at these challenges as opportunities and having a really in-depth conversation about how important it is to have the right mindset and to breed the right mindset, and having our own opinions about how those mindsets are bred, from young age, and what causes some of those brain drains and some of the discouragement, and wanting to keep such beautiful places vibrant and diverse. So we did learn, and got to see firsthand that there is a lot more than Nogales to this area, and there are a lot more than just border crossers, right? That are part of Santa Cruz County. It's actually really diverse, but perhaps there's more opportunity for more awareness and collaboration and I let you know that one of my favorite things in hosting these tours and unveiling the beauty of Santa Cruz County and the challenges that are opportunities to me is the I had no idea response. The adding that little more, breaking down that perceived barrier of what Nogales is, but not just Nogales, every border town out there that has neighbors that are so eager, to participate and show up in ways that we haven't really stimulated, right? In ways that, unfortunately, we've ignored because of the nature of how things are led and funded and come to fruition historically. But there's a lot of really exciting things here, right, that are yet to come. And there is change over the last 2 to 3 years within government on both sides of the border, but there's so much more to come, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think, we're really seeing the sort of initial process of a major collaboration between public and private entities that may not have existed, like you said, just a couple of 2-3 years ago. And I also want to highlight something that you said, which is it's really about the people. When you were showing me around, you were highlighting the variety of industries. I mean, everything from sort of industrial, agriculture, and then all the way down to retail and art. And I think what you have to you have to acknowledge is the wonderful people behind these services. And that's what it's really about, is that, beyond just the buildings and the infrastructure that you're looking at, or maybe you wish that was there, it's these people that are really striving to make things better and to build the future into, what we ultimately feel like we deserve.
Correct.
And we know is possible. I think empowerment is kind of a major theme. Awareness, I would say, and empowerment, meaning, to become aware of, oh, I didn't realize that was happening. You'd have to stop and really talk to people. You'd have to stop believing the words that other people are telling you about the area and stop just associating Nogales or Santa Cruz with border, and realize that we're talking about a rich culture and a rich economy that, I would consider an emerging market in a lot of ways, that that this area is so primed for growth, and anybody, again, who's been able to go through this experience in the way that you've really done a great service providing me can instantly see, oh my gosh, this is a great opportunity. Why? Because there's great people, and because there's a lot of land for things to be able to get built. And if we're talking about the tailwinds that are created, let's say from the top down through our governments, they're looking to pour money into innovation. They're looking to pour money into sustainability, renewable energy. And so, one of the things I would invite anybody who's looking at this is, if you see something that you think should be changed, you should take it upon yourself to participate in that growth. There's a little exercise that I like to run with people, which is, think about your current situation, economics, politics, whatever you want to change. And when you look behind you, you're going to see everything that came before, everybody, all the leadership, all of the programs that led up to where you're at now. But what's really important is you also look to the side of you. Who is with you? Who is supporting you? And who is not supporting you? Who is driving forward narratives that don't support growth in your ability to develop? But then look forward and realize that you are laying the groundwork for the people who will come in, in the future. And so, if there was ever a time for you to become, an engineer, and by engineer I just mean someone who is literally going to engineer their own path. Engineer their own transformation and change and get out of old cycles, it's you. Don't look for someone else to shoulder that responsibility. It's up to each one of us, and I think that's the challenge, but it's also the greatest gift we could ever have, because you now get to expend your own effort, to participate in the growth of the area. So. I just really want to thank you for putting me through such a tremendous experience. This is changing me and really causing me to ask questions about how can I be more self-aware of narratives that are spinning in my head about things that I technically don't know about. What do I have to show for, what based on my own experience of the area, as opposed to letting the media or other people who don't really know what's going on. So thank you.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure. So let's let them know. So what is going on? There's this change in Santa Cruz County is just a beginning. We see it, we feel it. It's being implemented. It's exciting. We're inspired. We're beginning to let down our guard. We're allowing ourselves a chance to believe again, to open up, to try our ideas, to be creative, and there's more to come. There is South 32 in the mind. There's border infrastructure. There is a broadband infrastructure. There is change that is coming, whether we see it, believe it, or not. It's going to impact everybody's life in Santa Cruz County, and I would love for you to share about how you're active in that and how your perspective of our community might influence the work that for Santa Cruz County in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I really appreciate this opportunity to share a lot of these things, because, I mean, in a real way, the barriers are being, lowered. And if you were hoping for something called equal opportunity, you should just take a look around to see where the funding is. Let's divide this pie of action, in a couple of different ways. I would say before we just, talk about chasing money for projects, whether it's infrastructure or workforce or whatever, I think one of the most important things really is to have a sense of shared values, because at the core of human relationship is core values. And the degree to which we align on our core values doesn't mean we always agree in terms of opinions, what should be done specifically. But if we have certain core values that involve, let's take the basics like love and collaboration and growth, the actual action steps become infinitely more plausible. Because in relationship, again, personal or professional, the degree to which you cannot reconcile values with someone that relationship is doomed for failure. So again, take that professionally, just as much as you would personally. And so when you're thinking about the kinds of projects that you would like to see here, just remember that really forming your allies is kind of like ground zero. It's really the groundwork that has to be laid for everything else. But let's move into the practical realm of, let's say, funding or program creation that's kind of out there now. The big areas of focus are going to be infrastructure, and I'll talk about what some of that is, workforce for sure, and then energy. I think that, if we really think about creating a foundation and preparing for the kind of growth that we kind of expect to be possible, these really seem like the appropriate foundations. That when we talk about infrastructure, the big one that comes to my mind, of course, is broadband. And, for those of you who may not be aware, we're talking about internet access fundamentally. And so there is a consensus basically all around the country that broadband technology and infrastructure is just like roads. It's like electricity. It's like water. It's essential because, broadband and internet access is education. It allows every individual to embark on their own learnings and participate in their own growth. And that is where everything else becomes possible. And so infrastructure is going to be huge. Nogales will probably be pleased to hear water and wastewater as part of that infrastructure, because I know, there's some struggle points here. And so I would invite people to clue in to these kinds of programs. Now, let me say this, in alignment with what we're discussing. Infrastructure won't just show up, though, without human action. And so it's important for everybody, again, to sort of participate in the kinds of things that they want to see here. And so you have to continue to stay active and understand the influencers that might be in this space, let's say infrastructure. And again, that's public and private, meaning, you want to build relationships with companies that can come actually build the products, build broadband in your area. But you also want to be connected to the public process. You want to be connected to your local government, because you want to think through any, sort of obstacles that would prevent your home, your area, your community from getting these funds that you could ultimately use to build out your infrastructure. And I think this might be where sort of workforce development as another, viable initiative comes in, because again, you get to, take your own professional development in your hands and realize, hey, where's there like a skill gap or a skill deficit that I should be focused on that would help me serve my community better? There has never been a better time to have literally have some kind of workforce training or apprenticeship program designed around the function that you want to serve. Whether, again, you're a company or some kind of entity providing a service, you now have the ability to connect with higher education institutions and get those things built. I mean, this is all happening now. This isn't, 2 years down the road, 5 years down. This is happening now. And so you very quickly will run out of excuses, to not do things. And realize, wow, I have a lot more influence over my community and in my situation than I originally thought. And again, I'm all about empowerment, and any day where, we can support someone in taking control of their own destiny. Don't wait for someone else to save you, because it won't happen. Save yourself. And it starts with awareness. But then it also means you have to become informed. Mm-hmm. You have to find out what actually is going on. If I stop listening to the narratives and I actually observe and look at what's available, what resources could we tap into, and how can we creatively, let's say, use those resources to actually make things happen. And so, yeah, what was the third one? So I mentioned infrastructure, workforce.
Broadband, infrastructure, workforce, the port expansion, right? The infrastructure for
absolutely.
port expansions, which the infrastructure bill is huge, not just for Nogales, right? It's going to transform all of southern Arizona through our ports of entry, and it's going to create a lot of opportunity, right? So opportunity, jobs, opportunity. I mean, ultimately, isn't that what we're all striving for?
I would say so. I mean, progress is really the sort of the thing that makes us feel alive. Anytime there's a sense of progress in our lives, we don't always get the grand vision of the things that we want, but if we're experiencing progress in our life, it's really hard to be depressed. It's really hard to fall into the woe is me or fall into the nothing ever happens here, because you're achieving progress. You're taking action. You're looking at your results, and then you're figuring out, how can I improve upon what I've already done? If you can command that sense of progress in whatever area that you're focused on, it's going to be very difficult for you not get things done, but B, for you to actually be fulfilled, in the process. So I think the opportunity, again, if I were to drive it, internally, I would say it's for you to be able to be fulfilled, meaning it's for you to be able to chart your destiny of the things that you want to contribute to. And if that looks like infrastructure, then that means there's going to be a group of organizations for you to get involved with. There's going to be, probably a hurdle in understanding, sometimes it's technology, sometimes it's really just, hey, like what is the political or the bureaucratic process look like for us to get things, as much as we don't like it, it becomes a necessary part. And we really have to work hard to build strong public and private relationships. We know that governance is a key aspect of society. You have to have rules. You have to understand that there are guidelines, and that, it ultimately is for how can we maximize the greater good for the most amount of people. So you have to tap into your governance structures and realize there has to be some trust built up there. But you also have to understand, business, and you want to also start to build relationships with businesses that, again, share your same sense of values. They're up until obviously the last, let's just say 50 years of our experience as Americans have been, these sort of private equity firms that hollow out areas, with Walmarts and cookie cutter houses and these kinds of things. If these are the things you don't want to see in your neighborhood, you don't want to see, and I don't have anything against these corporations.
Both Sierra Vista and Nogales are impacted by the mothership, Walmart.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, we really have to figure out, well, what should this look like? And then again, be empowered that it's your time to build those relationships, to understand from a, functional, practical project management standpoint, what does this cycle look like? And how do we commit to taking action until something is done? I also think, this process means you kind of have to look beyond just the next couple of years. Try to take a longer term approach and settle into the projects that you feel confident you could dedicate yourself for the next 10 years, 5 or 10 years, because whether it's like professionally, the kind of skill acquisition, that you want to go through, or you want to build relationship capital, or any of the other natural capitals, the resources that we could have access and grow, it takes time. Mm-hmm. And if you can have a future-oriented, long-term, 5 to 10 year horizon of like, hey, I'm going to shorten the number of things I'm doing to like these core things, and I'm just going to like be all in because, this is the 80-20. These are the 20% of the projects that are going to bring in 80% of these results. Be comfortable with the long game, because that you will be infinitely rewarded versus chasing after the short game. And the short game might be the funding that you see available. You might be someone seeing all the emails of, funding for this, for solar, or for, other kind of renewable energy or EV technology, make sure it aligns with your priorities and the kinds of things that you see yourself tied and connected to. And then you'll be able to not be concerned about the funding, because you'll be building competence. And if you build competence and you build great relationships, the funding is almost like a given. It's almost a byproduct, because you've built this professional network. So I don't know what your experience is, but this has been my experience and my role as a program manager, that if we're solid in our strategic direction, we eventually arrive at the funding, because we're committed to having this project come to fruition and changing our community.
I think the frustrating part for me is that it does take 10 years, to become the expert and truly have set that groundwork to do the real work that's necessary. But unfortunately, as we discussed, there is a lot of talent flight. There's a lot of brain drain across all of our border cities, Nogales certainly being one of them, where we host that challenge. And there's so much here, right? And we discussed how that conversation needs to start at home. It's a mindset. So in this awareness work, in this empowerment work, in this, there's a mindset shift that's required to do the hard stuff, to stop pointing the finger, to stop expressing that there is no hope, to bring up that situation that's less of a story than what is actually real about our communities, to pay attention that our young people are listening to what it is that we're saying, and that we will lose them. And these ideas that ultimately we implant, we need them to step up and shepherd them, right? We've been in the game already 10, 15, 20 years. Whatever we start today or implement, if we don't have them to carry, then what? Well, we lose a lot of our young people. They don't want to come home because they haven't been molded to believe as though their border community is an innovative space. It is technological. There are jobs here. It is a place of opportunity. You can grow. You don't have to leave home. You can be here with me, with mom, with grandma. We can grow here together. We can start something together. We can develop wealth instead of splitting up families because of the conversations that we're breeding, de que en Nogales no se puede. It's not possible here. Did you experience that today? Did you see a lack of possibility here today?
I did not. If anything, I hear what you're saying, and I think, it does start at home. We have to let our kids know that they are valuable and they are capable, because they have to experience that mind shift starts with the experience of it's possible, right? It has to start there. It is possible. And then, well, how do I actually make it probable? And how do I fit in to contributing to the probability of it actually happening?
Well, how do we include them?
Yeah,
How do we take the responsibility to include young people?
I would say maybe the start is admitting, maybe as parents, we have to admit we, didn't do the best we could, and that we don't have all the answers. And frankly, I know this is so hard, that we are dependent on our young people to provide the solutions. I mean, that's the irony, is we're supposed to be, the adults, and we're supposed to be the go-to, but leadership is this way where you're listening to your people. And if your people are your kids, then you should be listening to them. You should be listening to the ideas that they have, as crazy as they may sound, because again, if we're talking about a 10-year horizon, what the hell is a crazy idea in the face of 10 years? It's a project. It's okay. Well, we start with where we're at year 1 and we make it up to year 10. And again, as long as we're experiencing progress, then we're experiencing possibility. And that's so fundamentally what this is about. So the challenge is, if we are going to go the route of training our young people to be critical thinkers, to be doers, to be questioners of the status quo, you also kind of have to get out of the way as a bottleneck. You kind of have to realize, okay, my job here is to create runway for this little innovator, this young person who's got a great vision And, I've got to find them an operator. I've got to find them someone who can ground them so that, things actually get done, right? Because when you're a head in the clouds guy, like me, you need a great operator around so you can actually start to carve up reality and turn it into something, as opposed to just keeping your head in the clouds. Having great vision is amazing. It's absolutely essential. It's that's the startup, right? The startup is the visionary entrepreneur who has like an idea and they go and chase it. But you've got to surround yourself again with people who have shared values, but they don't maybe share the same opinion with everything that you have, because the best ideas are going to come from a little bit of friction. They're going to come from some conflict where, the core of what I believe and the core of what you believe have, go at it. And then what emerges is something beautiful, something magical. And that's what, when you see things getting done, that is the result. It's the result of doers figuring out, where their boundaries of agreement and disagreement are, but that they ultimately come together for the same purpose, the same objective, and it's to create whatever it is. Again, whether it's in the art space, whether it's in the actual infrastructure space. And so how do we unlock that possibility in young people? You have to expose them. Think about how any of us adapt. It's through exposure. The moment you are exposed to a stimulus and it's something novel in your environment, that teaches your brain that new things are possible. You can break the frameworks that keep you confined by exposing yourself to things that help you experience possibility. And that is how you start to germinate. That's how you start to seed that ambition. And teaching yourself how to actually lean into that and go after it. Make a mess of things, because as long as you're not blowing up your spot, you're not, putting yourself out of the game. If you can keep yourself in the game, you will turn that possibility into probability. Now, I just want to say one other thing, because this whole idea of possibility is like one of my favorite things. I created this little framework because at the end of the day, let's say pretending like things are possible is a better course of action than continuing to pretend like they're not. So if we have a conversation and your dialogue is filled with hopeless language and it's not possible here, no se puede. It's of course it's not possible. You literally are in a default position that says it's not possible. So you have to train yourself to believe that it is, at least to the degree that it causes you to take different kinds of actions that would create and move that needle from possibility, or let's say what you think is impossible. Let's go even further. Let's play go to zero, which is, okay, imagine something is impossible. And what I want you to do is draw a line, let's just say, 10 inches. And at the other end, one end on the left side, you're going to put impossible. On the other end, you're going to put inevitable. And in between that space is all of the incremental steps of moving away from impossible to probable. And maybe it still looks like, okay, well, I've moved from impossible to improbable, meaning there's a very low likelihood of success. Now start to outline and think about the things you would need to stack in your favor to move that from improbable to possible. Now you, again, on a long enough timeline, you've now created a loop in your own mind of growth and possibility. Now just keep pushing that idea through your own action, and inevitable is where you really end up. And anybody who's struggled through something, they believed it to be impossible at one point, but got to the other side of that, will know exactly what I'm talking about.
There's so much reward in that. Incredible reward. It's so much better than somebody telling you it's possible than to realize it on your own, especially when you're at the cusp of something really great, a really great solution to a really hairy challenge. To have an open mindset versus a fixed mindset is going to carry you a lot further, and you're going to be able to realize the change that you wish to see a lot quicker than anybody could have done it for you.
Yeah, I mean, we owe it all to God but we have tremendous influence in this world, as a being on planet Earth. The idea that we're hopeless, that we can't make change. I mean, if you looked at history in any context, you see that even through great tragedy, unfortunately, some amazing things have blossomed. So, give yourself the opportunity and realize another thing that we've really got to teach young people is that it's actually welcome to fail. That as you are failing, what you are actually doing over time is reducing your error rate. That you're failing on purpose to actually identify the core actions, the attitudes, the relationships, the things that when the dust settles remain there. That even if your business failed, you still accumulated all the knowledge and insight and wisdom that you had built during that process right up until the failure. So it's not, you have a material sense of things being gone, but you're literally carrying on from where you left off into your next thing. So, again, whatever the goal is for you as a participant, as a community leader or organizer, start to account, take inventory of your own resources. I've been calling it natural capital because it falls into these different categories. Again, let's say you have these 5 currencies that are part of your natural capital. And on one side of one currency, you have relationships. And on the other side, you have networks. On another side of currency, you have knowledge. And on the other side, you have skills where knowledge is applicable. On one side of another currency in your natural capital stack, you have cash. And on the other side, you have assets. So you really want to identify, and the last one is reputation and future value. If you organize your reputation, you honor your reputation, over time it becomes future value, and that becomes leverage. So, take inventory of the natural capital that you have right now, as opposed to thinking you don't have enough, you're not enough, things aren't enough. I guarantee you, if you spend a few minutes organizing yourself and just grounding yourself in the natural capital that you have, you'll probably realize you have a lot more to work with than you originally thought. And that is the growth. That is, again, a sense of progress. In that moment, you will experience progress, and you'll have an opportunity to move the needle on your project.
That's incredible. Thank you so much. So I want to end our podcast by having us each share a little bit more how people can engage. How can they get involved? How can they begin to unveil some of this awareness for themselves and begin to be actively participants of change, in their own community. Startup Unidos offers the Arizona Navigator Program. It's a no-cost program for citizens in Santa Cruz County, but also Cochise County and Yuma counties. We offer all small business support services in a bilingual format, and we offer entrepreneurship education and workforce development to people on both sides of the border, with the intention of wanting to develop more business for our state, for the state of Arizona. And in Santa Cruz County, we've supported small businesses, startups, and really businesses at every stage of development in helping improve their digital infrastructure. So as we're moving into this, with this change, we want to be, and this opportunity to change the narrative, we need to be discoverable. We need to be able to tell our stories. We need to let people know that we're here, that we're in business. And post-COVID, we understand the importance of having a digital infrastructure and having a digital presence. So we do a lot of that work for small businesses in the community, and it is a no-cost program. We also offer trainings and workshops, all things that citizens in Santa Cruz County, Cochise, and Yuma County can get involved with today. We also host a series of binational events focused around innovation and technology, STEM education, workforce development, that really drives people from both sides of the border to talk about how we can innovate. How can we solve for some of these challenges collectively? How can we bring down some of these perceived barriers of opportunities? Do we really understand our Sonoran neighbor? Do our Sonoran neighbors really understand Arizonans? The answer is no. We haven't had enough opportunities to be able to engage. So I love when we were able to bring people together and we open up the doors for more people to participate. because there isn't a lack of. There is more than what I have to offer. It's just you got to step outside of the block, right? You got to step outside of the box. You got to allow for these things to happen for you, right? And escape, that box that we build around what is possible in Nogales, because innovation is here. Innovation is here. The money is here. Opportunity is here. And now we have to take the responsibility to tell a different story. And I'm really excited about that, about the offerings that are now here in Santa Cruz County for small businesses during a time where it might feel like there's not, but it's here. It's offered and it's available. It's available to you, and we're connected to SEAGO and so many other partnerships. So I would love for you to share how people can get involved in being a part of the change through your own organization.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I just appreciate the opportunity to kind of share what we've got going on. So I've been sort of trying to brand a way to connect people to what we do through what I'm calling I-5. And I just basically it's 5 I letter words, and it starts with infrastructure. And then we have industry, incubation, intrapreneurship, which is different from entrepreneurship, and then investment. Because this really helps you understand the continuity of everything that's required to have a really robust economy. You have to have infrastructure. You also have to incubate startups. You have to support the entrepreneurial culture. You also have to support intrapreneurship, which is recognizing that not everybody can be an entrepreneur, but you can be a great operator. You can be a great team lead. A member of a team of an incredible organization. And then we also have investment, which is, again, the idea that direct investment, people's dollars going back into their community to build things, to grow things. And so, fundamentally, I would say we're an infrastructure planning agency, but really we're the liaison between public and private partnerships. And so you can go to SEAGO.org to find our official website. You can go to SEAGOtoolkit.com, where we're really sort of innovating resiliency tools and resources to support, our I-5 situation. But we're really here to participate in being engineers of the future. And so if you have a project or an idea and you kind of want to see where you fit into the ecosystem, I would encourage you to reach out because, we cover 4 counties, which is that L shape in the bottom right-hand, corner of the state. We've got Santa Cruz, Graham, Greenlee, and Cochise County as part of our regional footprint. So I imagine I'm not going to have all the answers, but hopefully the best I can do is really guide you to the people, the tools, and the resources that help move the needle on what you want to accomplish. So
For sure. Same with me. I'll extend my social capital.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So that you can leverage it and do something great with it. Stephen, thank you so much for spending the day in Nogales and Tubac, Rio Rico, Kino Springs, Nogales, Sonora. It was such a great day.
Yeah, it was beautiful. I just so much appreciate your kindness and your insight and your care, like your passion. Everything really shined through, and that impacted my experience tremendously.
It would not be possible to have this conversation with you on air if it were not for Underground Studios and I Am Podcaster.
Yeah, Dilo.
Muchas gracias, Dilo.
Thank you.
Oh.